First of all, we'll run into situations where somebody says, an admin calls us and says, you know, my production org is you know, halted to its knees. Nobody can save opportunities anymore. What's going on? What we found out is that somebody created some kind of automation directly in production. They didn't test it first. It broke something and the system goes to its knees. You can't write Apex code directly in production. You have to write it in a sandbox. So developers have that discipline built in already. And what the biggest concern I have around automation is when people build it directly in production rather than testing it out first in a sandbox. But there are a few other concerns that I have as a developer. Most of these kinds of automation, workflow, process builder, flow, there's no really good ability to comment in the body of the automation itself about what it's doing or why it's doing it. Very often we'll go into an org and we'll see 25 workflow rules. Some of them are active, some of them are inactive. We'll see a boatload of process builders or a boatload of flows all for the same object. And when there are multiple different kinds of automation, even for the same object, it's very difficult to figure out what's the logic of what the person was trying to accomplish. Which one of these flows or process builders might be failing or might be causing a problem. The sheer number of these things can sometimes cause performance issues and governor limit issues. And if you've got a boatload of process builders or a boatload of flows for the same object, the order in which they fire is not predictable. All of that in contrast to a trigger where best practice is you write a single trigger, even if it's doing multiple things, and then you can control the order in which those multiple things occur. With Apex code, as I said before, we have to write unit tests that exercise that code. Process builder workflow flows do not require unit tests. And so you may think you've tested something in a sandbox, but there are no unit tests in production. And when you deploy it to production, so it's possible to write an automation that is not thoroughly tested because you don't typically have the ability to test it unless you write Apex tests. Also, it's not uncommon for somebody to either build directly in production or to deploy to production and have something that they deploy that causes existing unit tests to fail. There's other issues associated with configurable flow about them not being bulkified. I talked about some performance issues. Workflow, process builder flow don't fire on delete. They don't fire on undelete the way triggers do. So definitely a lot of power with the configurable kinds of automation, but with great power comes great responsibility. And these are some of the things that I get concerned about.